In a sterile, high-stakes boardroom, a $100 million deal was collapsing because of a single catastrophic word that no one, not even the ruthless CEO, understood was a grave insult. From a forgotten corner, Liam Hayes, a single dad hired as a disposable culture guy, was the only person in the room who knew the truth. He was mocked for his lowly job and instructed to stay silent. But he saw the dream for his daughter slipping away with the deal. With everything on the line, he had to make an impossible choice: obey and watch it all burn, or stand up and risk everything. What this overlooked translator did next would leave the millionaire CEO completely stunned and change his life forever.
This is TS Simple Serene Stories. Before we get back to this touching story, I have a quick question for you. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you believe that humanity and miracles are eternal, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get back to the story.
The glow of the monitor was the only moon in Liam Hayes' small universe. It was nearly 2 a.m., and the city outside his window had finally fallen into a tired hush. On the screen, the dense, blocky characters of a Japanese technical manual for a water filtration system awaited their transformation into clean corporate English. It was tedious work, the kind of work that paid the bills but chipped away at his soul, one sterile phrase at a time. Beside his keyboard, another document lay open but minimized, a half-finished application for a senior analyst position at a logistics firm. It promised stability, benefits, a dental plan, all the things a responsible single father should want. He stared at the blinking cursor, a familiar knot of self-doubt tightening in his chest. Taking that job would mean less time, less flexibility, less him. With a sigh that tasted of stale coffee, he closed the file. His gaze drifted to the refrigerator, a gallery of his life's pressures. A bright pink overdue rent notice was held captive by a magnet shaped like a smiling cat, right next to a crayon drawing of a man and a little girl holding hands under a giant six-legged sun. Tucked beside it was a glossy brochure for the Northwood Arts Academy, its pages filled with images of happy children painting, sculpting, and laughing. It was perfect for Maya. It was also impossibly expensive. A soft, shuffling sound pulled him from his thoughts. Maya stood in the doorway, her small frame silhouetted against the dim light of the hall, clutching a well-loved stuffed owl. "Daddy?" she whispered. The owl had a bad dream. Liam's focus shifted instantly, the weight of deadlines and rent vanishing. He swiveled in his chair, his face softening. Did he now? Come on, you two. He had been practicing his calligraphy, trying to unwind. A sheet of rice paper lay on his desk, a single elegant kanji, kizuna, the bond between people, still drying in the lamplight. Maya patted over, her eyes, wide with sleep, fixed on the character. "What's that secret code, Daddy?" "That one means connection," Liam said, his voice a low murmur. "It's about how people are tied together, even when they're far apart." "Like me and you?" "Exactly like you and me," he said, pulling her into a gentle hug. He breathed in the scent of her shampoo, the one anchor in his swirling world. It was for this, for her, that he navigated these late nights and wrestled with his own sense of failure. The next morning, his phone rang, shrill and demanding. It was a woman from a high-end placement agency he'd networked with months ago, her voice crisp and urgent. "Liam Hayes, it's Sarah from Interlink. I have an emergency request, and your name was flagged for your specific expertise. Sterling Innovations. They're in a critical negotiation with investors from Tokyo, and they need a cultural liaison specialist. On site. Today." Liam's heart gave a nervous thud. Sterling Innovations was a major player. "I thought they had exclusive contracts with the big firms." They do, but their usual guide doesn't have the deep-level cultural background for this particular group. They need more than a translator. They need someone who understands the etiquette, the subtext. It's a one-day contract, but the rate is significant. It was a step up, a real opportunity to use the skills he was proudest of. But it was also a one-off gig, a tease. He thought of the Northwood brochure. I'll take it. Good. The contract is on its way to your inbox. Read it carefully. There's a specific clause in there about your professional obligations if you notice a communication breakdown. They need a safeguard. An hour later, Liam stood in the lobby of Sterling Innovations. It was a cathedral of glass and steel, polished to a merciless sheen. The air hummed with a quiet, ruthless energy that made his clean but well-worn suit feel a size too small. A young man with a sharp suit and an even sharper haircut approached him, a tablet in hand. "Liam Hayes?" he said, his eyes scanning Liam with polite, dismissive speed. "Marcus Vance." "Right, you're the culture guy." He glanced at the agency name on his tablet. "Good of you to make it on such short notice. Just try to keep up. We have a top-tier translator from Blackwood handling the actual language. Your job is to observe." The condescension was subtle but clear. To Marcus, he was a box to be checked, a piece of procedural ornamentation. His specialized skill set was reduced to being the culture guy. Just then, a presence swept through the lobby, and the ambient hum seemed to focus into a laser. Isabel Sterling. She was exactly as the business journals described her. Formidable, impeccably dressed, radiating an aura of intense, focused power. She didn't even glance in Liam's direction. "Marcus," she said, her voice like cut glass, "the preliminary reports are on your tablet. I want you to know them backward and forward before Mr. Tanaka arrives. There can be no mistakes today. None." Of course, Isabel. She was gone as quickly as she appeared, leaving a wake of palpable pressure. Marcus straightened his tie, his brief flicker of insecurity replaced by renewed arrogance. "Right this way, Mr. Hayes." Liam followed him toward the main boardroom, his heart pounding a nervous rhythm against his ribs. The imposter syndrome he fought off in the quiet of the night was now a roaring beast in the light of day. He clutched his briefcase, the contract inside his only shield, and walked into the lion's den, wondering if he was a vital specialist or just the first person who would be thrown to them if things went wrong. The boardroom was an arena of calculated calm. On one side of a vast obsidian table sat Mr. Kato Tanaka and his two associates, their faces polite, impassive masks. On the other, Isabel Sterling sat flanked by her team, a predator coiled to strike. Liam was seated in a chair against the wall, an observer on the periphery, a ghost at the feast. The meeting began with a display of flawless technicality. Mr. Davies, the primary translator from the prestigious Blackwood firm, was a master of his craft. He navigated the labyrinthine terminology of patent law and proprietary algorithms with an effortless confidence that impressed the Sterling team. When Isabel spoke of synergistic integration and scalable architecture, Davies rendered her words into Japanese with the precision of a surgeon. Marcus Vance smirked, shooting a look at Liam that clearly said, "See? This is what a real translator sounds like." Liam had to agree. Davies was brilliant, but as the conversation pivoted from the what to the why, from technical specifications to the philosophy of the partnership, a subtle dissonance began to emerge. Isabel spoke of a dynamic, agile partnership. Davies translated it with words that were technically correct but tonally flat, stripping them of their passion. He was translating a dictionary, not a vision. From his corner, Liam watched Mr. Tanaka. He saw the almost imperceptible stiffening of the man's shoulders. He saw the brief, fleeting glance at his Patek Philippe watch. He saw how Mr. Tanaka's teacup remained untouched. These were not the signs of a man being won over. They were the signs of a man enduring a lecture. Liam's anxiety grew, a cold knot in his stomach. He began making quiet notes on his pad, tracking the two conversations happening in the room, the one of literal words and the one of cultural meaning, which was crumbling into dust. Then came the tipping point. Isabel, sensing the need for a powerful closing argument, leaned forward. Her voice was imbued with a sincerity that was all the more potent for its rarity. "This isn't just about a 5-year contract, Tanaka-san," she said. "We are looking for a true partner. We are asking for a deep and lasting commitment." Commitment. The word hung in the air. Liam held his breath. It was a beautiful word in English, full of strength and promise. But in this context, it was a minefield. Mr. Davies, seeking a term with legal weight and gravity, chose his word. It was a strong word, a technically correct word, and it was a disastrous one. He translated commitment as gimu. An invisible shield of ice slammed down between the two sides of the table. Gimu was not a word of partnership. It was a word of burdensome, one-sided obligation. It was the duty a vassal owes a lord. It was a debt. Mr. Tanaka's polite smile did not falter, but it became a brittle porcelain thing. He murmured something to his associate, then turned back to Isabel. His voice was exquisitely courteous and utterly cold. "Sterling-san," he began, and Davies dutifully translated. "We are most impressed by your technology. However, my company has a fiduciary duty to its shareholders. We must be cautious of entering into ventures with such heavy obligations. We cannot be shackled by unforeseen burdens." Shackled, burdens. The words landed like stones in the silent room. Marcus Vance went pale. Isabel's face hardened into a mask of controlled fury. The $100 million deal was not just slipping away, it was plummeting from a great height. "What is the specific objection?" Isabel pressed, her voice dangerously quiet. "Is it the exclusivity clause? The timeline?" Davies was flustered. He could only relay the literal meaning. "He is concerned about the obligations, the burdens on his company." "What burdens?" Marcus hissed. "We're offering them the deal of a lifetime." They didn't understand. They were arguing with the words, blind to the meaning behind them. Liam looked at Isabel's face, at the frustration and confusion warring with her iron control. He looked at Mr. Tanaka, a man of honor who had just been deeply, if unintentionally, insulted. And he thought of Maya, of the Northwood Arts Academy, of the quiet shame of feeling like he had settled for a life in the shadows. The contract, he thought, the clause. He had a professional obligation. This was his moment. The fear was a physical thing, a cold hand gripping his throat. But the alternative, to sit here in silence, a coward, and let his own potential die in this room alongside the deal, was worse. He had to overcome the voice in his head that whispered he was just the culture guy, that he didn't belong. He caught Isabel's eye. He gave a slight, deliberate shake of his head, a silent signal across the chasm of misunderstanding. For a split second, her sharp gaze locked onto his. He saw a flicker of curiosity, a willingness to see what he was offering. It was enough. He discreetly raised a hand, then stood. "Miss Sterling," he said, his voice steady despite the frantic pounding of his heart. "Forgive my interruption. The issue is not with the finances. It is with the framing of the relationship." Marcus turned on him, his face a mask of outrage. "What do you think you're—" "Let him speak," Isabel commanded, her eyes never leaving Liam. Liam turned to Mr. Tanaka, bowed his head respectfully, and began to speak in flawless, formal Japanese. The sound of it, so different from Davies's clipped technical delivery, instantly changed the atmosphere in the room. Tanaka-san, Liam began, his tone deferential but confident. Please forgive the clumsiness of our Western phrasing. The word that was used, Gimu, does not capture the spirit of Miss Sterling's intent. We do not offer you a burden. We offer a shared path. He pushed the disastrous word aside and introduced a new one, a better one. What we seek, Liam continued, his voice resonating with the conviction he truly felt, is Unmei Kyoto-tai, a community sharing a common destiny. The effect was instantaneous and profound. Mr. Tanaka leaned forward, the polite mask dissolving to reveal genuine interest. He bypassed Davies entirely, addressing Liam directly. He spoke of his grandfather, who built his company on the principle of honor. He spoke of his desire to build something that would last for generations. For the next 10 minutes, Liam was no longer an observer. He was the bridge. He translated not just words, but ideas, philosophies, and respect. He conveyed Isabel's vision not as a demand, but as an invitation. Isabel watched, stunned into silence. Her expression shifted from shock to relief to something else entirely, a sharp, calculating recognition. She was not just watching a man save a deal. She was watching a quiet, overlooked man wield a power her entire high-priced team lacked. She was seeing a strategic asset she hadn't even known was on her board. As the meeting concluded, the atmosphere in the room was one of renewed, if cautious, optimism. When Mr. Tanaka stood to leave, he first approached Liam, bypassing everyone else. He gave a deep, formal bow. "Hey-san," he said, his voice resonating with genuine respect. "A bridge is built not with steel, but with understanding. Today you were a master architect." He then gave Isabel a professional nod, and with his delegation in tow, swept out of the room. The heavy door clicked shut, leaving a ringing silence in its wake. Marcus Vance, ever the opportunist, was the first to break it, a nervous energy radiating from him. "Well," he said with a forced laugh, "a bit of a bumpy ride, but all's well that ends well, eh, Isabel? Good thing we had all our bases covered." Isabel turned to him, and the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Her voice was not loud, but it was dangerously quiet, each word a perfectly formed shard of ice. "Your top-tier translator," she began, "almost cost this company $100 million. Your culture guy, whom you dismissed, saved it. It seems your definition of bases covered involves a fundamental blindness to what actually matters." She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. "Reevaluate your priorities, Marcus." Immediately. It wasn't a firing. It was something worse. It was a cold, clinical assessment of his failure, a verdict from which there was no appeal. He paled, stammered a weak "Yes, Isabel?" and practically fled the room. Now only Liam and Isabel remained. She turned to him, the corporate mask gone, replaced by an expression of sharp, analytical curiosity. "I apologize, Mr. Hayes," she said. "My team has a blind spot. I, however, do not." She gestured to the chair opposite her at the great obsidian table. "Your agency said you were the best in this area. They were right. I want to know more." negotiation. Lunches with Sterling's engineers, where he explained not just what to say, but how to say it. Tense calls with legal teams where he smoothed over cultural misunderstandings that could have derailed progress for weeks. He was no longer just translating words. He was building the bridge Mr. Tanaka had spoken of, plank by plank. He found his professional footing, and for the first time in a long time, he felt he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The 3 months culminated in a signing ceremony. The Tanaka deal was done. Liam stood in Isabel's office, the city sprawling out beneath them. The signed contract, a testament to his work, lay on her desk. "You didn't just save the deal, Liam," Isabel said, using his first name for the first time. "You made it better, stronger." She looked at him, her expression one of pure, unadulterated respect.
So this is,
"I'm offering
1080p,
you a permanent
60 frames per
position.
second,
Director of
with
Global
a rock
Communications.
steady and able
It's a new role created for you." She named a salary that made him feel lightheaded, but then she laid out the reality.
Business district here.
This isn't the end of the challenge, Liam. It's the beginning. This role will require travel, sometimes on short notice. It will require more of your time, more of your energy. I'm offering you a career, not just a job. Can you balance that with your other commitments? That evening, the soft lamp in Maya's room cast a warm glow on her walls, which were covered in her drawings. Liam sat on the edge of her bed, holding a copy of the signed Sterling Tanaka contract, beautifully printed in both English and Japanese. On his desk, the brochure for the Northwood Arts Academy lay open. He had called them that afternoon and enrolled her for the fall. "I took the new job, sweetie," he said softly. He explained that his word puzzles were going to get bigger now, that sometimes he would have to travel on airplanes to help people in other countries understand each other. He watched her face, bracing for disappointment. Instead, her eyes lit up with a fierce pride that mirrored his own. "So you can teach more people how to talk to each other?" she asked, her voice full of wonder. He nodded, a genuine, unburdened smile spreading across his face, the kind he hadn't felt in years. "Yeah, I guess that's exactly what I'll be doing." He had his daughter's understanding and a future he had finally claimed for himself. He looked from her bright, hopeful face to the contract in his hands, a symbol of a bridge built between cultures, and a bridge built between his own past and his future. The hope was real, a warm and steady light, but he knew the challenges were just beginning, and for the first time he felt ready to meet them.
Thank you for taking a quiet moment with us. Every story is a journey, and we're so glad you joined us for this one.
We believe stories are a way to connect, even when we're apart. If you felt a connection to this tale, we invite you to subscribe and become part of our growing circle.
Our question for you today is, what's a simple moment of peace you've experienced this week?
Share it in the comments. Let's fill this space with serene moments.
Until the next story, be well.